My mom told me not to talk to strangers on the internet, but I'm glad I didn't listen. We are the Certified Nunas, your sisters in the love of Asian entertainment.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
I'm Jessie.
I'm Natalia.
And I'm Sky.
And today it's back. It's back from retirement. The genre jar is upon us once more. If you are new to the Certified News and unfamiliar with what the genre jar is, we have an actual physical jar that has slips of paper in it that have genres and subgenres and real specific subgenres of Asian television and film that we pick 4 random ones out of, and then we make a poll on Twitter that anyone can vote on over which one we're going to talk about. And this week, Sageuks have finally won. We were very confused about the number of Sageuk fans that there apparently are on Twitter, because it did quite well in the polls comparatively. We were very surprised. So today we're going to talk about Sageuks and our favorite Sageuks. If you don't know what a Sageuk is, well, stay tuned, because we'll tell you. Welcome to a little mini education with the Nunas. So, a Sageuk is a catch-all term for any Korean historical drama or film. Usually, they're set in the Joseon era, so they, tend to have a lot to do with court intrigue and that sort of thing. But it is technically any historical era can count as a Sageuk. But it's just the most popular one is, because everyone, who doesn't like a good sword fight?
And a pretty costume, right?
Yeah, and some silk ropes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Fancy hair.
Long hair. The manes of glory, as they call them, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while, you get some pretty janky wigs. So you get one of the two. So the way that we normally do this is that we talk a little bit about the genre, and then we each go and say what our pick for what Sageuk, if you like what the sort of things that we like to watch, what Sageuk you might enjoy. So, what is everyone's sort of history with the Sageuk genre?
When I first got into dramas, I did not watch them in the beginning, but I was on Pinterest a lot, and I was trying to find recommendations for K-dramas on Pinterest, and most of the Pinterest K-drama suggestions were all Sageuks because they're so pretty. And my sister was like, I don't think you're going to like those. And I'm like, they're so pretty. And she was like, okay. Yeah, I'm really not that into them because politics is not my preferred genre. I don't like modern politics stories. I don't like historical ones. But every once in a while, one of them catches me, and then I'm in it to win it.
I don't watch them at all. I don't really like historicals in general. I don't watch it in any language. I think it's interesting, and I think learning about history, but not really learning about it through a fictionalized setting, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I've watched maybe a couple, less than a couple, and we all know how one of them went down for us. So
I'm sure we'll chat about that soon.
Yeah. So yeah, no, they're not my preferred. They also tend to be longer a lot of times, and it just I gotta fill my days with shows that I'm gonna want to watch. I don't have the time to, so more power to you. You can have them.
I personally love Sageuks quite a bit. I especially love fantasy Sageuks. Big fan. But I actually I always love listening to people talk about them where they're this show was good except for all of that nonsense about the politics. And I'm like, but I like the nonsense about the politics. I want to know how, the third son of the fourth concubine becomes yeah, I'm into that. I want to know how he becomes the crown prince. Who's he gonna behead on his quest for power? Okay, I am interested. But I've watched quite a few. Even some of the ones that are real long, I've watched them. And I don't really talk about it much. It feels sort of bizarre because I get this sense that like a lot of people don't really like them, which is why I don't really talk about them that much. But on the other hand, there's so many that get made, so someone besides me must like them a lot. If they keep making them. Either that or they just have like a bunch of costumes in the back of sets, and they're like, all right, we gotta make another one. We gotta do it. Anyway, I think Sageuks are fun. I like historical stuff anyway, especially like I like reading historical fiction and all that. So it works pretty seamlessly into my whole vibe. What about you, Sky?
I really haven't watched a ton of them. I have watched a very small handful so far. I go for the lighter ones. I haven't really tried much for the super serious. I mean, I've watched a few episodes here and there of like The Crown Clown or something, but it was a little too intense for me. And politics-wise, to me, the story gets bogged down quite often. It might be a testament to the ones I've tried as well. I mean, but in general, it's definitely not going to be the one I pick up. However, like I said, the lighter ones or the more fantasy-based ones, I definitely usually give more of a look to. And the fantasy ones, when I say fantasy, let me be specific. So even though I enjoy supernatural aspects as well, when I say fantasy, when it comes to Sageuk, like a very shiny view of what would be a dark time in history. So that's what I mean by lighter and all that, to where there's maybe more humor in it, or maybe more feminism, things that weren't a thing then.
Yeah.
So the first half of Moon Lovers, the second half.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
No, I don't. No, don't. If you like happiness.
No, I mean I will watch it sometime. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, it's politics, and I don't like politics. Doesn't matter what year it is. So
yeah.
Same. Politics and corruption usually don't play off very well for me. So we know, and that's like your driving force on like most of Sageuks. It's not a lot of options there.
And in case people don't know, if you didn't hear the time or two that we've discussed this in the past, there was once upon a time where Jessie, Natalia, and I watched 100 Days My Prince together.
Yeah.
Boy, that's, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna come out and say it. In all defense of 100 Days My Prince, and envoys aside, pushing the envoys aside, it wasn't that terrible. Like, it had its moments.
It was definitely something I would have dropped if we hadn't been watching it together. So that's a thing. Like, it's definitely terrible enough for me to like have wanted to drop it, but we were like watching it together, and so that was a thing. So it was like, okay, I guess we'll just like trudge on as a family on our movie night.
On our road trip to hell.
Yeah, well, and then also, like, okay, the problem with, like, also 100 Days My Prince, not that it, like, actually, like, it affected things just because it pushed it to a weird time, essentially. When I started 100 Days My Prince, I had a lot of time. It was, like, a great time for me to be, like, watching a lot of stuff. Then Drama Fever, which was carrying it, died. We started this whole thing. Then I didn't have like much of any time after that, and then like I had the rest of 100 Days of My Prince, and then I was also not like enjoying it that much, so then I was like, I could just cut it now and then move on. But I mean, our like little like movie nights were fine. Enjoyed that. But
that was back before Rabbit was dead too.
Yeah.
The
double whammy.
pre the double funeral that went down there.
Now, and I will say, so the first half or so of 100 Days My Prince was an easier watch than the second half. And I think because of the small handful of more politically inclined Sageuks that I've watched, once it starts dragging, that is when I'm like, ooh, am I invested enough to keep watching this thing?
Yeah.
But,
yep.
I mean, like, also, like, with 100 Days of My Prince, the first half does focus on, like, in the found family, and you get a lot more character-based stuff, which is, like, a thing I like. And then, like, towards the end, it becomes the politics, corruption, and then they kind of just, like, stop caring about, talking about those characters, too, so then there's this, like, weird drop where you're like, but this is also supposed to be comedy, and they keep forgetting that it's supposed to be comedy until these, like, random times, and you're like, okay, that's the joke you're gonna do right now.
Yeah, totally.
Doesn't work.
There was tone issues there.
I feel like there always is with the more later rom-com Sageuks, is that, like, even those ones, they look pretty, and I'm like, it looks like it's gonna be fun. It looks pretty, but, like, they're still gonna kill off half the main characters, aren't they? Like, it's just, you know, I've been burned before, and I'm like scared.
I mean, that's definitely not a thing. You can kill off characters. I don't need a happy ending. I don't need any of that. Like, I'm like a prime for that, like, type of thing. It's just, I don't need the politics and corruption getting in the way.
What I think is funny is when you start a Sageuk and then you see, you know, there's a small handful of actors that they're usually in Sageuks and they're usually the bad guys in Sageuks specifically. Yeah. So when you see them pop up with a certain type of hat, it's like,
you're like, oh, okay.
The left minister who's doing everything, aren't you?
Yeah. Well.
And you're
meet again.
And you're gonna get, like, way more screen time than the stuff that I care about, right? Like, that's usually. I mean, Sageuks in general, they do cover a lot of subgenres, like we said. So you get the fantasy ones, the lighter ones, the darker ones. There's some really intense ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely understand why other people would like it too.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not a weird thing for me to, like, be like, oh, that's weird that people like it. No, I can see exactly why they would like it.
Oh yeah.
Power to them.
Sure.
If you like it, you like it.
Natalia, what's the most episodes you've watched for Sageuk? Like, what's the longest one you've seen?
Okay, let me just look up how many episodes. 50. 6-Line Dragons was 50 episodes. Very good. And
were those hour-long suckers? Was an hour long?
They were. Oh. They were indeed.
That's serious.
I liked it. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I enjoy myself, and also I have, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, I do have a chronic illness. I have an immune deficiency that keeps me from leaving the house for much of the year, so I gotta fill my time somehow, you know, and sometimes a nice 50-episode politically charged historical drama it keeps the time moving, you know.
I could definitely see if you get into the political side, it would be like, ooh, I gotta see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you start out, like, it's really bizarre because when I started watching them, I really didn't like the political stuff, but then it bizarrely grows on you, and you're like, okay, like, ooh, what's that son of a bitch second minister gonna get up to now? Like, ooh, they think they're gonna catch him, but I know he's gonna weasel his way out. I wonder, and it's just, you know, it's kind of fun, but stupid at the same time, you know, like, it's hard to explain why I like it. Like, I just, you know,
you just like it.
Yeah, man.
I think the first Sageuk that I ever tried was a Weekender Sageuk, and I'd never tried a Weekender before that either. So I had no idea.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's when you get those 50 like 1 hour episodes, is usually it's a Weekender, right? And yeah, and Rebel Thief, like, the concept sounded really good, and but not being familiar with Weekenders, I wasn't familiar with the fact that very, very, very frequently the first, like, 2 weekends are going to be set in the past, and then you're going to time jump to so it was all, like, this 10-year-old kid and his parents, and then, you know, his parents get killed or something, like, and I was like, oh my god, what am I watching? Like, it's so depressing, and then I was like, I can't do, like, 50 hours of this. at the time was like not mentally prepared for that, you know. I was used to like in a 16 episode or by episode 4 things are starting to move. And by episode 4 things were not really moving yet, and I was like, I just don't think I can do this.
So we're going to talk about our picks.
Yes,
Sure.
let's do it.
I can. It's pretty easy for me.
Right.
I think that everyone can probably guess what I'm going to pick.
I might have. I
wonder, like, maybe.
What
What could be?
Listeners that have listened to us. Anyway. So, rookie historian Guhei Rung is my pick. It actually gets a little darker than you expect as the show goes on, but it definitely, the first handful of episodes feels much more light. It is a more shiny version of a Sageuk.
Mm-hmm.
Things still happen, but there's definitely a fair bit of feminism going on. It's great. But yeah, it's really, really enjoyable. And actually one of the plot points, or they have some history actually in the show to where they talk about where vaccines came from in Korean history, and the things that they discuss in that, at least a fair bit of it is true, because recently when I was watching Master in the House and they were talking about the virus and stuff and vaccines and where they came from, they were in a school type setting and it was kind of funny. And so Inwoo answered a question and he got it right because he knew who, quote unquote, invented vaccines. And they're like, how did you know this? He's like, plot point. And
He's like, well,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
And they're like, oh, that's cool. And they showed a clip of the drama. And I was like, I mean, I assumed that a lot of the stuff in the drama was true as far as the names they were using and stuff. But so that confirmed it, the way they were discussing it. So that was actually really cool. I didn't figure that was going to be in it at all, because a lot of the plot is about pretty much court positions for women that were educated and the types of women that wanted to have those positions. You know, one was from a wealthier family, so people didn't understand why she would want to work, essentially, as opposed to just have her wealth. Well, back then, women, it wasn't really her wealth. It was whoever she would marry someday, you know, all these things. And so they would talk about that. And then a lot of it also came about, there was just a lot going on in the show, actually. The role of the historian and how that becomes the word political is pretty apt, because they would write what would happen, but of course sometimes kings wouldn't want certain events to be recorded in history.
Yeah.
But then they would kind of come to blows over that, because the historians would see it as their duty to record exactly what happened. And so then that is how it kind of gets a little darker, because things happen with that. Then there's a cute little lost prince dude, you know, my ultimate bias. That's the thing. And I'm going to say this now. A lot of people thought that his character was like, at least the first 6 episodes or so, was really too silly and stuff. It's the way his character was written. He was a naive prince who was like really removed from society. So that is the vibe of the show for a while. It's kind of silly a little bit. Him and his little helper guy. The helper guy is really funny. But, I mean, there's some deeper stuff that goes on. There's a lot of really good themes in it. Like, people probably go in for the romance aspect, but the romance really isn't the main part of the show at all. It's really about the historians, and kind of even there's a little bit of tension between the female historians and their role along with the male historians, because that's kind of a battle, them making their own way with that and getting more than just pretty much being secretaries for them. So, and then it made me wonder how much was true. Like, of course, there were some aspects like, oh, they're going on a girls' night out. That probably wasn't really a thing back then. You know, it was silly. But whenever it was, I wonder how female historians really did function. You know, it kind of made you wonder. So I really recommend it, because especially, I wouldn't go in wanting just for the romance aspect. It's cute, but like, you're not going to get romance every episode whatsoever. Maybe not even every couple or 3 episodes. To me, that's not the sell that you should go on for that show, but it's really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Well, for me, okay, so while one of my favorite shows, Korean shows, is technically a Sageuk, I've talked about Secret Healer before. I've talked about it before. We don't need to go on about Mirror the Witch again. So I've decided to go for a different one today. And I'm going to recommend the drama The Scholar Who Walks the Night. Now, okay, if you're going in this for romance, get out, because the romance is not, like, I'm going to be honest, their chemistry, not great. It's not great, but that's not why you're watching this, okay? You're watching this for the villain. So, okay, let me just scroll back. The basic plot is there's this girl who cross-dresses as a man in order to, write books and read books and... Listen, you know that plot. But meanwhile, there's also a vampire. There's two vampires, actually. There's a good-ish vampire played by Lee Joo-gi. And then there's a real evil vampire played by, what's his name? He has, like, the really, really, really deep voice. Oh, Christ, what is his name?
He was in White Christmas, right?
Yeah, Lee Soo-hyuk.
Yeah.
Lee Soo-hyuk, who plays possibly the greatest vampiric villain I've seen in a long time. And, for all of those who are, in this a little bit for eye candy, he does most of it shirtless. So, it's a little pro note. But that is not why I like the show. The show is well acted, and it has, like, a really interesting, like, thing. And it's like a really interesting plot, and also the court politics, I know, are actually, it's actually interesting because it's got, like, the evil vampire is, like, the evil villain puppet master behind the throne, like, controlling, anyway. He, and he's just, he's this Lee Joon-gi just plays like a nice vampire, nice-ish vampire, and then there's this, and okay, so I have like a little bit of a problem with vampire. Yeah, I have a little bit of a problem with vampire fiction in general, and it's with the romance in vampire fiction because there's always like a sort of uncomfortable edge to it, right? It's like, sure, he might look 18. But he's like 200, right?
Well,
and
that's
so
with any paranormal. Like, you can't.
Yeah, and so
can't
it's
do
like.
It for any.
And so when you have like this 200-year-old and there's like a 17-year-old love interest, I'm always a little squicked out. But this one doesn't play up the romance that much, so it could have literally. I'm gonna be honest. There could have been no romantic subplot in this show, and it would have still worked as a show. But it is really entertaining, and it is really well done. And Lee Joon-gi is always a delight, and Lee Soo-hyuk is always a delight. So, or Lee Soo-hyuk, I said his name backwards. So, like, Chang Min's in it, man. Like, it's got it all. So just, like, go enjoy it if you like that sort of thing, which I do. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk about a drama that I've already talked about many of times, but I don't have very many choices to talk about. So this is what you're going to get. And they officially just put it on Cocoa and Vicky this past Halloween. So now it's like available for all of you. And that's the show Hometown Legends, aka Ghost Story, I think is what I have it on those sites as. It is technically like an anthology series, drama series type thing. And each episode focuses on lore in Korean history, and it's all set historically. I haven't watched all of the seasons. The first run of it was like in 1977, and they had like a run of like doing seasons of it through the 80s, and then it came back in the 90s, and then it came back in the 2000s. So it's this like big long thing. I don't know if like any of those like the 90s episodes like went out of historical, but like I think because of like how the other seasons have played out, they're all kind of historical. It's really cool because it like focuses on like a different thing, and like you have like the kind of known like Korean folklore, like the Gumi, but there's like other things or like other like stories that are kind of like localized to like one specific area, and just kind of like just a story that has been passed down. So that makes it like an interesting thing. And I like that like it is an anthology series, so like all the story is contained in one episode. So when you get to the next episode, it's completely different cast, completely different story. There's no connection unless like somehow they hired the same actor, but it doesn't matter. It's not like they're playing the same character or anything like that. It allows like the viewer also, like if you're not Korean, to kind of see kind of some of the lore that is like outside of what you would normally see in a Sageuk, or not in Sageuk, just like in general, because like there are the folklore that's like kind of common, just like every other place. They like focus on like the most common things. I think it's neat to see that kind of thing and like see it presented in a story, and it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, and you can watch it now legally, so that's a thing.
That's nice.
It's not like super scary, but it's horror. It's not purpose. I don't really think it's supposed to be like scary, It's kind of like it would have been scary if you had been like telling these stories by the fire pit, but it's not like it is like its purpose is to scare you, kind of like. So I really like it.
All right, so as I said before, I am not a super big Sageuk fan. I wanted to be, but politics got in the way. But my first Sageuk that I watched all the way through, finished, I think this is part of my problem. I'm still going to recommend it anyway, is Scarlet Heart Rayo, or Moon Lovers is sometimes called. It's a really, really good show. Lots of pretty going on. Lots of heartbreak. I cried a lot, let me just say. But it's really good. Stars IU as a girl who drowns, I guess, and wakes up in a pool full of hot, half-naked men. And it's, like, okay. And then, they turn out they're all princes, and so this is a crime to see the naked princes. So somebody rescues her, and she goes on to be a servant girl and catch the eye of pretty much all the princes. They basically all kind of either fall in love with her or want to kill her at some point, or sometimes both.
So is it kind of like a reverse harem show? I've wondered this.
Not kind exactly, but kind of. She does definitely. There's 3 or 4 of them that are in love with her at various points in time. She's in love with more than one of them.
But she's mostly in love with one specifically.
Yeah.
For the longest
she starts
time.
out very in love with one, and then moves on to another one, and he's sort of the main dude for the rest. And he's, of course, the, dark horse, unloved brother or whatever. They're all half-brothers. There's, 4 or 5 or 6 wives, and then they've each got 1 or 2 or 6 sons each, and,
You know how it is.
You know how it goes. So, I mean, at one point, the dad is going to marry her. Yeah. And she does not want to marry the dad, but, you're a servant girl, and he's the king. You don't actually get, choices. So, and there's a whole thing with, the one guy has a scar, and she, in the future, she works at, a makeup counter at, Sephora or something. So she's going back in time, and she's like, oh, I'm good with makeup. So she like helps him to hide his scar and, all this. So it's got some of that like time travel-y stuff to it, but it's not like one of those ones where they're going back and forth throughout. The whole show is in the back, like in the past. It, starts out in the now, and her boyfriend's dumped her or something, and she's super sad, and she gets drunk, and then she tries to rescue a kid from drowning, and she winds up drowning herself. And like I said, wakes up in the past, has a whole life of court intrigue and lots of romance that goes about as well as her modern day romance did, and it's really, really good. The story is good. The actor's good. Our sweet baby Jisoo is in it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a delight.
Baekhyun's in it. He's also a delight.
When I first started watching it, like I said, this was my first Sageuk, and it was really early in my K-drama watching. So I was having much more difficult time, like with them all in like the wigs and the robes and stuff. I was having a really hard time telling them apart. So for a big chunk of it, I kept confusing Baekhyun and Jisoo. And now I'm like, how are you confusing these two? They look nothing alike. What is wrong with you? But like, I was new. But yeah, it's cute. The bromance bits are really, some of the bits are really sweet and funny, and there's really cute bits with her bringing modern day things into the past and stuff, which is kind of fun. And yeah,
I will say this: Kang Ha-neul's wig is a disaster. Just like, and it's like from the front it looks pretty good, but then they'll have like shots from like the back or the side, and you're like, bro, I can see your line here, sir. But he's it is what it is.
Yeah, it is good.
How much politics is in it? I've wondered that.
There is a fair bit, but it's sort of, what I mostly remember is the bromancy stuff, and the politics are there, but it's kind of all more like brotherly infighting politics. Like it's not a lot of like outsiders exerting on. It's just all
no envoys occur.
No.
What's the envoy level in this Sageuk?
Very low envoy levels.
Basically, messed up family relationships, and
that would be in any drama, really.
Like, imagine the most dysfunctional family but if they were royalty.
Yeah,
so that's the way royalty is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's more messed up family politics, but because they're the ruling family, it becomes politics.
Politics,
because,
yeah.
It is what it is, and who should be the next king, and who should be the next king, and and you'd think, it should just go in birth order, but because multiple wives with multiple sons, that's one of the things in it. They're all like, they go by their number. So it's like second son, third son, fourth son, sixth son and stuff. And they don't all, like, I think it's like the fourth and the third and the fourth, or no, the third and the fifth are brothers, like full brothers, and then there's like over here, and then dad like really favored her for a while and then left, but then he came back, and like it's a little confusing that way, but you kind of get the gist of it. I don't really need the full family tree in order to like get what's going on here,
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, it's kind of one of those ones where everybody sort of falls in love with her because she's feisty, because she's from the future, and she doesn't, behave very appropriately. So, well, okay, all the guys fall in love with her, and all the like women want to punch her in the face mostly because I think jealousy, Yeah, and there's evil mother-in-laws, like 4 of them, because
Times 4. That now
yeah.
I guess that's the second. So when you talk about Sageuk, it's like, what's the envoy level? And then what's the evil mother-in-law level? Like how
the
many?
evil mother-in-law level's quite up there. Well,
Yes. Some evil mother-in-laws are more evil than others, but yeah,
If
it's
you're dealing with multiple of them, that is
evil sister-in-laws, evil, I think there's only one of those. There's one princess. And she's,
there's like 2, but one of them's nice.
Oh, one of them's like 5 or something. One of the princes basically like rescues her and like moves her off into the mountain kind of thing. Like, don't live with us because we're the worst. Like, go be safe, little
Sleeping Beauties or takes her.
Yeah.
And there's like another fun female character who's like the daughter of like the general of the king's army who lived on the battlefield with him, so she doesn't know how to be ladylike at all. So she's a delight.
Yeah. Very good at fighting and standing her ground, which is also fun. So there's lots of good characters. I mean, that's one of the things with something like this is that there's so many characters. There's a good chance you'll like somebody. Like, just the big problem is if you with so many brothers who are all, falling in love with her, if you start sailing on the wrong ship, you're in for a world of hurt. So just,
If they could have only leaned into the reverse harem thing a little bit more and just it wouldn't have been a big deal.
Like, but they take you for a little bit of a ride because, like, for the first half of the drama, you think they're going to, and, like, you think you're getting a fun little, like, but no.
You think it's going to be sort of one bride, 7 brothers, but no.
No. It takes a bit of a turn in the second half, not gonna lie. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie.
I feel like that's the story of a lot of Sageuks. Like, they start out sort of
character-y,
and then the second half they hit you with the politics and death, and you're like, oh, great. But I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, I really cried a lot, but I also really, really enjoyed watching it. I think it's might be the reason why I got a drama fever. Like, one of the reasons why I actually started paying for Drama Fever, because I didn't want to, like, wait for the episodes. Unfortunately, that means it was a Drama Fever thing, and the license on that one has apparently not worn out yet. It has not yet shown up on Netflix or Viki.
That would be such a Netflix one, man.
It would be.
Which Netflix has just picked up a bunch of Drama Fever ones. Like, they just got Strongest Delivery Man, so I'm hopeful that means these are all those licensings are coming due, and Netflix will hopefully get it, because I think it would be a good one on Netflix. It's so popular. I mean, everybody.
Even if it got pushed to
It's also gorgeous. Like, the filming of it is gorgeous. The one bad wig aside, everything else is it is a chef's kiss.
There's a lot of like horseback riding with hair and a cape flowing behind you, and stuff like that. It is really pretty. There's a lot of really prettiness to it. So, but I think it scarred me a little bit in the Sageuk world, so it makes it a little difficult for me to like fully commit now.
But I mean, definitely for not the super light Sageuks, that is kind of a hallmark thing to have a little bit of depth with some of your main characters. It seems like that's a common.
It's true. It is true.
And if you go into Sageuks not knowing that's a thing.
And that was as it was my first, I was unaware that this was something I should be on the lookout for. So,
Like, oh, it doesn't have a Disney ending?
yeah.
Womp womp.
Exactly.
And then your sister who's seen other Sageuk, she's like, girl, I told you.
Oh gosh. My sisters watched K-dramas for about 2 years before I started watching them. And like the number of times when they were just like patting me on the head like, hey, where I was like, like sassy go-go, and I was like, I really think like Jisoo's got a chance, and they're like, oh girl. And I was like,
Oh,
dang it.
what a lovely dream you're having right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sweet summer child. I know better now.
Oh, poor Jisoo. Even when he wins, he loses most of the time.
Even when he gets casted anymore, we're like, we'll see. We'll just see.
I'm glad that you're getting paid. That's all, really.
That's all that matters. You get that bread, buddy. You get
that
bread.
puppy money. You get it, buddy.
We believe in you, my dude.
If he ever just has some triumphant, like, normal male lead character, we're just all gonna be like, is this
We're gonna
right?
be so confused.
No, we're not gonna believe it the entire time. We're not gonna believe it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
We'll get to episode 16, we'll be like, okay, so where's the rest of it where he gets dumped? Like, where's...
Or dies, or something.
Yeah,
like
or something.
Like,
or she dies, or what? Where's the tragic ending for him?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Happy. What?
The last 3 minutes of the entire series, it's like, where's the truck of doom? Because there has to be one. Like,
Yeah.
Cool.
One of the only times that a drama ends happily and perfectly and totally sticks the landing, and yet still everybody is mad because they're like, it's not what they were expecting.
Well, on that note, we end yet another Genre Jar episode where we talked about Sageuk at you, the listener's insistence. We hope you enjoy them, and if you have any Sageuks that you really like that we haven't mentioned, feel free to, tweet them at the official Certified Nunas social media account, at Certified Nunas on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. It's good times. Thank you for listening to us and for listening to this episode. You can listen to it pretty much wherever podcasts are found. We're on Spotify, Apple iTunes. We put them up on YouTube, and of course all of our episodes can be found on our website, certifiednunas.com. If you want to become an official sponsor of this podcast, you can go to ko-fi.com/certifiednunas in order to become one of the certified found family whom we love and cherish, and they keep the lights on in this metaphorical house that we have going here. We hope that you have a fantastic week and are staying safe and healthy, and, keep on enjoying all that the world of Asian entertainment has to offer. All right, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.